Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 33 of Illium, a modded Cities 1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. The radio park really added so much to this side of the city as we started the first of the 25 tile projects in Illium, which will be continuing today as well, and really wrapping up this chunk of peninsula in this side of the city. With the Green Cities beach located down the hill, here with a monorail passing over it and a little bit of Thessia vibes to bring in today as well. With lots of green cities, markets, palm trees, and a little bit of nightlife around the waterfront here too. With some new viewpoints to explore. We're in the 25 tile stage now. We have new waters to look over and new land masses to enjoy and watch them grow over time as well. Welcome to the mid-game everyone, and a happy Monday to you all. So we'll get started here today just by expanding the arterial road left over from the Sapphire Marina episode quite a while ago now, and bringing down all the local road connections from existing builds so we can map out how this area is going to sit. Wonderful. So with our road frame down, I'm going to come into actual landscaping tools to grab our sand texture. Now I know some people do find this sand texture in particular to be a little radioactive. I think for lack of a better phrase, isn't it? So if you don't mind me using Theme Mixer in the mod set, I might change out our sand texture. It's not too bad at the right time of day. It's just during basically midday it looks a bit nuclear, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. So I do want to leave some cliffside in, so I think I'm going to have this pathway remain essentially as my sand boundary, I suppose. And then we'll have probably a park here, just a little residential park by the monorail to celebrate it, I think. And then we'll soften all this out as well. So once we've got our sand in, let's do that soften. Don't want any cliff texture by the road, basically. We're happy to have some here where it's a bit knobbly. We'll get some larger rock formations here. Let's actually have some fun with the coastline now, shall we? Well, the coastline, the other side of this bit of the city is very developed and keyed, so I think it'd be nice to get back to some smaller basics with a bit of a rocky coastline formation here. Of course, endless workshop assets for you to indulge in here. With some nature detailing. Was following Thessia and Ilos back in the day. We'll know of our favourite little rock wall asset. But don't be afraid to jump in. There's a lot of very good nature assets on the workshop. I think that's all it needs here. And I think I certainly do want some commercial here, but nowhere near as kind of commercially focused as this end of the beach, and where we've got all the parasols. Like, we will still have some, which we'll grab them now actually while we're here. Once we have one down, we can just copy this whole palette over. And we'll have them on our beach. Say, make sure we get them on the ground, roughly. Although prop snapping is on, so they will snap anyway. I guess I'll probably have most of the commercially focused bits by this area. I think a lot of the nightlife's likely to lie around the monorail. So a few of them, not thousands. They are actually quite addictive to place these there, where you can really have a lot of mass prop fun with parasols and umbrellas. And we'll also upgrade our tree road into California Shorty. All the way down here as well. Sweet, so immediately off the sand, I want kind of a lot of green cities vibes around here basically. So a lot of the big commercial. Specifically want to be green cities. So I'm going to place down some of my larger green cities buildings. Yeah, lots of this stuff. But then I specifically do want the market assets. So we'll have this at this side of the beach. We'll let the beach be the beach, if you know. I don't want to fill it with markets, so I'll just have it adjacent here. We'll chuck down a load of my favourite ones. We'll have, of Of course, a lot of the thin, narrow boys. Lots of these. And then, of course, all the variety of tent as well. So you can do this without the mods. You just have to be very specific in your zonings and your grid formations. But I think certainly don't be afraid to take on a Green Cities market in vanilla. Sweet. So we'll have this as our entrance. Then we'll move these three up. I'll probably do a fair bit of building spawn points work today here, I imagine. Really want, tell you what, while we've got our buildings down as well, let me also bring the pathway through. Will very much form probably an entrance into the park here. But loads of people specifically walking around my Green Cities market is what I'd like to see today. This here. Let's duplicate it. Even from there. Yeah, I might go for 3 of them. Now that second one's probably close enough to not even care. Yeah, that'll be fine. This one will probably need a bit of help though. So we'll just drag him down to the road. And just to clarify, that is the building spawn points mod. If you're wondering how to do that. Allows you to place your buildings significantly further back from your pavements, your sidewalk. Great bit of quality of life for detail in that. And lots of dirt texture everywhere, all through here. Quite happy for lots of dirt and sand to have kind of blown across the road and the street with being so close to the coast here. That probably needs to be bobbed, if not replaced, for a totally different asset. Probably bob it, I don't want the car parking spaces there. So here let's mix and match some stalls through all these little kind of admittedly quite hipster shipping container cafes. Imagine the sort of places that are serving kind of avocado chai lattes to people called Terrence. So much fun, these little assets. Those back 3 will certainly need some building spawn points. Really easy. You just click on the building, hit the mod icon, and click and drag it back. It just says where all of these services basically, so the things that keep it running will go to here instead of here, which they obviously can't reach because it's facing away from the road, but now they can. Great stuff. Let's do something else with this path so we're not staying so boxy. Did mention a park here, which I'd love people walking down into the park. Visit the market, so this pathway can just go up there. I'm not bothered about making this like a pay to get in park, you know. It can be pretty chill over here. Carry on with that little market. Just gonna move you along for a little section there. And then we'll have this, which might rotate. That's just gonna want to be shifted off as well. And all this here, I'm just gonna duplicate these up. Probably twice over. Yep, and then that can almost end the market there for us, I think. We'll also bring in a path to help indicate that as well. Don't want to take up too much real estate because I do want some other buildings around here. Okay, I'm pretty on board with that. And then I would love to use the fence on road feature to... Yeah, I'll miss out that section. But then my path is there as well, isn't it? That's okay. I guess I'll just do it on that section then. And then have... You know, maybe even one of those little tourism parks, the one that you can turn into basically like an allotment, would probably go really nicely in one of these little Green Cities marts. Is it this one? Yeah, it's that variation, isn't it? Are we happy with that? Yeah, I think that goes very nicely, doesn't it? Sustainable cuisine, literally. They're growing it here. Isn't that just a coincidence of a billboard? Yeah, well, I think we're definitely on board with that, right? Perfect. And of course, there's 1,000 different million variations of these green cities stuff should conform here. Let's go ahead and arrange the main street buildings we just placed here. Again, another very, I guess, duplicatable building, for lack of a better phrase, is this one. It works very tidily in a 4x4 pattern. Especially with the little roof garden design you get as well, right? So I have that there, and then just piece all these together here. I'm going to break a building occasionally just to drop in a car park. There's a lot of business around here, and will be a fair amount of residential too. Of course, also leaving some alleyways between our buildings too. I also mentioned some nightlife down here. So let's indulge ourselves in entertainment here. I think certainly one of those nice diners. It's this one I'm thinking of, isn't it? Yeah, that one there. Well, I did just like that one actually. And can we get that one in there in the corner? Little tourism blending. Yes, mostly. I'll be happy with that there. Trinket Emporium. And then we'll have one hotel down here. Just not as many as the others. Let's just start to form our little beach here. I do want to start tapering down here now. And as I mentioned last episode, I don't think there's a need for another monorail stop here. Well, one, because it'd be essentially impossible. And we're going to keep it a little more long distance too. We did also have a bus line coming through here as well. Let's get him to come down the main road. Stopping at these commercial sites and the beach. And then, yeah, that can carry on back on its merry way. So with our commercial frontage coming together, just let's have a look at the districts here, because we have green cities, which is going to float the hill where we planned out our road network here. All of this is very easily zoned here. I do get a lot of questions actually on Egg. When do you decide to zone and when do you decide to plop, especially in the Illium series since plopping has been available to us. My general rule of thumb is if it's forming like a mass sprawl aesthetic, i.e. this green city suburb that surrounds the pyramid. And we touched on this particular view last episode, just this vast sprawl where everyone lives basically that doesn't live in the city centre. I'll zone stuff like this because it's fine. But you know, if we're going into more of a specific build such as outer lying suburbia of an airport, and we have a corner into an industrial estate, here I'm likely to fuse these buildings rather than zone. So I guess it just depends on the scale I'm trying to go for. If I want that vast sprawl, I don't think there's a need to really plop them. But that's generally how I tend to process suburbia, at least. I hope that makes some sort of sense. It can be quite hard to explain the design philosophy sometimes. Well, I think we'll get there. I'm happy to have houses this close to the Star Fort. And possibly under the monorail. We'll see how we feel about that when it grows in. But all these back streets can just be dense suburbia. We'll do some zoning here. But we will just tease out a little bit of land there because it is quite steep. And then we'll just remove and add the zoning there so it doesn't fracture like that. Also reclaim those trees as well. All houses are going to be in here. Yeah, we'll likely blend another entrance into the hilltop park here as well with these car parks. Get some surface down and pathways so it makes sense to connect through. And then we'll come to talk about the beach here once all that's grown in. So, do we have a park area here? Do we have one? We've got a pedestrian area in the marina. But I think we'll draw out a new park district here for this then, and also make it include the whole beach as well. Which we're going to name Thomas Sands, because it's Thomas's birthday on the 5th of May this week. Thank you so much for watching, Thomas. Your wonderful sister Charlotte reached out on Instagram to give me a shout out, but I thought, you know what, you can have a build instead. So happy birthday to you, buddy, and thank you so much indeed for watching the content. So much to the point that your family actually reaches out to me to let me know that. So I appreciate it. So Thomas Sands will occupy this coastline, and if we can also get some happy birthday, perhaps cake emojis down in the comments section for Thomas today as well. Happy birthday, mate. Some tree lining, I think, along here. Something not overly landscaped. I think I do want to do some quite obnoxious landscaping around here. A better way to factor in the monorail, which we'll get to. Well, I think to shield the coastal path from the park and not too regular row of oaks. And possibly some other smaller trees as well. I think maybe some vanilla green tree, actually. So do we even have it in this theme? Oh, no, we don't, do we? Oh, no, we do. Yeah, it's there. I was going to say, it should be in every theme, I think. Just a few of these here. We'll certainly have some pathways going through as well. So we'll for sure have assets here, which might look really sick, actually. Kind of sat around the monorail on their own little plaza. Kind of highlighted. I guess if we're going to go park assets, I'm most drawn to amusement park here. But maybe not as over the top as something like roller coaster is going to be too big, Egg. You know it is. Definitely don't try that roller coaster. Right, we need to put a park gate down. Let's actually put this as this entrance into our Green Cities market. We'll go for a large gate here and really kind of blend this into the high street as well. Actually, speaking of park gates, you guys highlighted during the recap episode that the reason these parks weren't getting visited is because they're technically not connected. Let's see if we can change that. Oh. I guess I don't mind having those props and trees in the pathway. Just want to move them along a little bit. Actually, maybe I'll just put them there, because I guess there's car parks there now, isn't there? So it doesn't make sense for those planters to sit there. And we'll see if that makes a difference then. The tip has actually flattened, which I guess helps. And then there's another one over here, wasn't there? Here. We might have to move the statue of Jerry Sr., which I am not happy about. There we go. Okay, yeah, there is a moment, isn't there, where it actually snaps in. Okay, well, to compensate, Jerry Sr. will actually double him up rather than put him back. Wonderful. Okay, hopefully that will actually draw people up to my glorious viewpoints then. Because that's two viewpoint parks that are just straight up not getting any traffic. So, hopefully that'll fix them. Beyond the non-functioning park gates, we can also have a look at something else here. I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try it. There's definitely no way I can feed the monorail through that. That'll definitely... That'll be called out in the comments. can't do that. As fun as that would be. No, but alongside, I just think... There's a cocoa shake, have you heard that? There's a roller coaster. Is it a bit obnoxious? It does make a nice bit of the coastline, doesn't it? But my idea here was to taper down, and I feel a roller coaster isn't tapering down. Is my reluctance to use it, almost. But I think next to the monorail is pretty cool. That does look good, doesn't it? That does look good. I do quite like it, everyone. I'm going to go for it. It's Thomas's birthday after all, right? On today of all days. I think is the day I can justify a slight hilltop roller coaster. Bring the pathway down so we can hold it. I'll snap everything to the same height at one point. Just want to have all the assets down first. We'll make that the tallest one. We could also go for a pendulum. Again, it is, everyone, don't forget, Thomas's birthday, after all. So could we just include this here? This will also give me a much nicer time kind of framing the monorail here, so it doesn't look too exposed. You okay for a connection? Where is your connection? On the side? Yeah, so for a little bit of safety framing, I think down here we just used fence, didn't we? Which is not a particularly clever use of nodes, I don't think. I think it certainly does warrant some sort of safety fencing. Do we have any barriers beyond the roads? You know, we could use the actual race day barriers here. I'm pretty desperate for a racetrack in Illium as well. Having just said, I think that's a pretty senseless use of nodes. I might actually use more nodes. Like doubling up this racing fence either side of it. I think, you know, just for those security barrier vibes, that pretty much does it for me. What about the other one? No. We'll go for this one for sure. I will actually show off the node controlling trick. I very rarely do, actually. But I'll show you what it is, because we haven't touched upon it in the series yet. So we'll do this. Is that going to be equidistant down there? I think so. That way we've got the angle of the fence facing outwards to prevent people climbing it. Could use prop fencing here, but because it's going up a hill, you're going to get loads of cuts and splits in the fencing. So network fencing is probably better for hill stuff like this. Be fine if it was here, you know, where it's flat. But it's not loads of ground here, so it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, we'll go with that. I think I might do a little bit of overgrowth in that too. We could also probably do some surface painter, but if it's not on the axis, we might just do some like kind of broken ground actually. Maybe just a bit of embellishment. Oh, is that on the axis? Oh my god, it is as well, isn't it? What were the chances of that, everyone? That's amazing. That's so good. Okay, that makes surface painting the whole thing vastly easier then. It's like remnants of the construction ground that was here when this was made, you know. Oh, we do have some really nice detail around here. That's gonna look so cool. Isn't that a wonderful contrast? That like white fence, grey ground to the green as it slices through the city. You could do that through a downtown. I'm actually very tempted to take this visual, which is easily the discovery of the episode, on Thomas's birthday of all days. To take that fence wrapped monorail out here. Maybe we'll do that through the whole city. That's a job for live streaming, Ag, though. That's gonna take ages. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. But a discovery of that aesthetic here, right? I don't think there's a need to cross over here. So they can just walk around. And that way they might actually use the coastal path here too. Let's discover some connections for them to come in. I wouldn't mind some actual buildings up here. I kind of have an idea for what I want to use one of the parks for. Probably would like that to connect. So I'm going to adjust where that fencing goes to. And then we'll come back to coastal pathway here. I will draw this out, but I think I just want it to be essentially picnic space. Again, great spot to bring your own blanket, isn't it? Some sandwiches and hang out with the ants as they try and eat your food and ruin your day. And then we'll also have regular amusement park pathway out here too. And then we'll isolate this whole central block, especially with the buildings and the nodes in particular. And then set everything to the same height as the roller coaster itself. So you missed out a node there. Yeah, so that'll be our top level. That shouldn't deform the terrain too much. Yeah, in fact, it's almost perfectly expandable here into this next corner. For another asset to come in, I did just mention roads, because I wouldn't mind one of those nice, unique parks in here. I'll actually throw some of these in either side of the main gate, see if we can discover a pattern with those. And then we'll have a sports court in. But the park I wanted to use was the little friendly neighborhood one this one here. I want to see if we can include this somehow. I guess my easiest way to include that is just to get rid of this rank vanilla housing that's actually sat inside the park itself, because it looks disgusting. And that way these pathways could just come in. Might even just network multi-unlock all of these segments here and change it to dirt pathway. Or maybe just the one through the middle. We have really small segments there. My god, we do as well. That's so inefficient. That must burn a ton of nodes when you place that asset. They really need to change that. Well, it's obviously not going to change now, is it? That is the last thing the developers are coming back to do. There's so many nodes in that asset with that tiny little segment there, isn't it? Yeah, we'll keep it all dirt. It's the aesthetic I want through here. I don't need to relock them, like they will still use them. But you can just in case you accidentally delete them with your bulldozer tool. It'll grab the whole asset again. Cool. Yes, I mentioned also a node saving trick, didn't I, with Network Multi-Tool. So by opening it here and looking at your subtract menu, this will allow you to remove nodes. It will stretch out the fence, but it does take back the node. The instances where you would do this would be kind of huge stretches of highway or huge stretches of fence like this. You don't want to do it on active networks. You can do it on some roads, but if you do it too much, they can lose their pathing ability to actually find where they're going, basically. So I wouldn't want to remove this one here, for example, because this node, they're deciding where to go at this next intersection. So if I remove that, this will become very difficult for them to navigate. That can then start to cause stuck sims and your simulation can start to fail. So when you're doing stuff like this, it is something to be careful of. You could do it on pathways. They navigate pathways pretty well. So like cars aren't going to get stuck on this, obviously. But yeah, big stretches of fence and monorail are where it's at its best, really. Like another great example here. We can just remove some of these pointless fence nodes. So it's just stretching the segment length out up to the next two nodes either side. But you get a node back every time you do it. So it is worth doing. And you can also do it like out in the highways here as well. So like there's loads of nodes out here, right? But the game doesn't need all of these. Like it can still navigate quite fine between those 2 points there, right? And probably the same here again as well. You know, they can just cross this segment. They don't need to change their behavior as to what lanes they go to because it's just straight highway out here. So nice little trick with the Network Multi-Tool. Something to do from the start of the city, really, because you'll thank yourself for it in the end. Like at this point now, let's just have a little look at Illium's node count via the mod. Watch it. Net nodes is at 41%, so we've just broke 40% after all of that. So we should be alright. But you know, even if we're not, we have those node saving techniques. And with the upgrade fence to road idea now, we pretty much don't really, well, we'll certainly slow down our node consumption dramatically, at least with that update. But otherwise, I think we're ready for a detailing time-lapse. We have our park assets in now. I'm going to arrange all this around there. A little bit more green cities and small tourism, you know, stuff like this. No massive malls or none of King Leno's stuff, I don't think, down here. That's a little bit too developed for me. This is chill by the beach diners and seafood restaurants, etc. Oh, look at that monorail from the street level. Isn't that dramatic? You know what? A jet just flew over my house at the same time that went past on screen there. That was very dramatic. I have no idea if the microphone is picking the sound of that jet up. I thought that was the monorails making that sound. So like jet engine powered monorail systems, wouldn't that be a sight for sore eyes? I wonder if we see our buses getting used here too. Yeah, just continue the vibes down here. Green Cities commercial on the front, with the Green Cities houses on the back with appropriate details to be made to adjacent builds. Otherwise, grab yourself some snacks and we'll be right back after detailing Thomas Sands because it's Thomas's birthday. Alright guys, let's have a little detailing review, shall we? Over what is quickly becoming one of the most unique looking cities, primarily because of the monorail. There's lots of this sort of sight line on the opposite end of the downtown as well. It's really adding a lot, isn't it? But either way, let's take a look around, shall we? So from our beach pathway, giving off the last suburb, we have our encompassed monorail line now with its safety fencing, which I really like. Really love this aesthetic. Expect to see this many more times across the rest of Illium. And funnily enough, we've also created a new hunting ground. You might have noticed in the detail in time lapse, there is an awful lot of animals trapped by the fence and the pathway in this little picnic area here, which is great. I really love that. There's like constant animals getting stuck trying to cross over here, right? Like civilization has arrived, creatures of Illium. Along the road we have fencing, well, hedging as fencing, giving us access into little parks here. Paths back up to that little amusement entertainment centre. Then all through here we just blended in the emerging history packs, or renewed history, sorry, not emerging history. That's two different content creator packs blended together. Yeah, and then this just cuts through. There's a little bit of surface and walkability here as well. But just a really nice amalgamation, especially on the cut on the bend of a road here too, having these parks just sat either side of the gate. Then there's a toilet, bit of concrete space, paths up and down into various areas. So just a really nice park area. And then this flows down into the market, which of course I absolutely love. These little green cities market vibes. We've got a few of these across the city now. They're always so much fun, aren't they? People walking through it as well. Come down to Sunday Market. Down at Thomas Sands, which is so good. Happy birthday again, Thomas. Up here we have some roadies lining our entertainment, which is just more amusement park assets, using Move It to align the surfaces of the tiles. Just to create some happy entertainment for the people of Illium. There's some really nice views across the coast, and indeed the rest of the suburb here too. Even seeing some of those very big Central Park assets. Well, not Central Park, that's just a regular park, isn't it? Atop the hill. So we get more greenery. Brilliant, and there's the monorail. Isn't that cool? Definitely glad I went with that. I think the monorail passing by the roller coaster and the pendulum as well, to be fair, is definitely a vibe I'm on board with. So I'm happy we went quite over the top with that. And then our pathways link us back down to the coastline, where there's also a gazebo down here with views of the bay and the peninsula, which will be a very dramatic view one day, I hope. But they are using it, which I really like to see that. They're coming to enjoy the coastal pathways here, all tree lined up against our park. Which then brings us into the beach, which does have invisible pathway on it, surface painted away. Just so our beach is active. Guys choosing to cycle across the sands. Two more senior citizens, both in matching outfits. They're also walking across the beach as well, which has all our parasol and sun lounger detailing on it. And up here we have children's playgrounds, blending back in to the main street where we have some higher level 5 green cities homes, quite luxurious looking. And then a public library from Seaside Resort, so to push back off the road, a little bit of surface painter, a gazebo, some trees and some hedges, just to kind of give it its own grounds. Which is, I think, a really effective way of bringing a bit more interest into a street corner. I really like how that turned out there. So the suburb does have a library. And then our commercial centre, our strip, just sits down the main road with buses. And along the back here, rather than just leaving it as grass, because I didn't really want to get more commercial this side, just a little bit of chain link fencing and some choice industrial props to create essentially just these little compounds for each of the developments here. Really like that. Same thing over here again, slightly different angled gate on this one. Wraps around the side too. A lot of fun to be had with chain link fencing. Monorail, of course, passing right over this, and then a decent selection of commercial, mostly green cities, a little bit of tourism occasionally in here as well. And partnering some of the After Dark assets with the bars. And then regular commercial before it dissipates off down to childcare and a bar, and then up to where the lighthouse sits at the tip of the road. And then just up here as well, amongst our flowing hillside suburbia, which has pretty awesome views to downtown from here, doesn't it? Just down here did some little fences, a couple of signage just to perhaps indicate, you know, you are looking and observing at some historical war infrastructure, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, using some of the countryside props down here as well, benches, signage, you know, please do not climb in the trenches, etc. You can imagine such signage here. There's a nice little tourist attraction, I suppose, for Thomas Sands over here. And then our beach, well not our beach, sorry, our green suburb has just enveloped the space around between the old build from last episode and the stuff that we've implemented today along the beachfront. Checking out last episode, we'll also see how it's going with our monorail now that they've run for a good while. We have 114 and 112 through these two different systems. But lots of people, there we go, can get a sense of the rush. Yeah, it's alright. There's busier networks in the city. But I do love how everyone is walking up this big central pathway into this area here. But I am really enjoying just how busy this park is from last episode. I know a few episodes ago I said I'm going to calm down with the parks, and the last two episodes have included massive parks. So we'll slow down at some point, I think. But either way, very happy with this, and indeed the additions to Thomas Sands, pretty much rounding out this landmass of Illium now. This whole area is completely finished. Allowing us to move over to there, where you can see some brief testing. That's probably going to be next episode. Spoke on industry and power needed pretty soon. And then I think it'll be resuming these areas, continuing the march forward until we complete pretty much this whole major central city area. A lot more to go. And indeed, I thank you all so much for watching in this late of an episode 33 indeed, of Illium. An enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that bankroll these videos, with a roll call to our golden patron X: Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Wolfo, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, Great C, Bryce Johnson, Sean, and Trevor Larson. Thank you so much indeed for all of your incredible support, guys. If you want to get involved in that, links to Patreon and Instant Gaming are the best ways to do so. Please do hang around for the cinematics. I'm sure the monorail sweeping around this huge circuit today should be quite a lot of fun indeed. Otherwise, I thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.